I tried negotiating a job offer, like asking for more money and some other benefits, and the recruiter actually pulled the offer. Yep, yep, yep. Today I'm going to chat about an experience I don't talk about very often. It's about the time I had a verbal offer from a company and I tried negotiating and it backfired. Basically, in the end, the recruiter ghosted me and there was no job offer. All right, so where do I start? Back in 2000 and it was probably 2017 or something like that. I was at a company. I enjoyed working at the company. My salary was good. It was great for the market. So I wasn't really actively looking. I was a little bit bored with the job. I wasn't getting a lot of stuff to do, and the things, they weren't that challenging. So I was getting contacted by recruiters very, very often. And for people who worked with me at that time, they know what it was like. You were getting contacted every single week, every single day. Recruiters were in your inbox, and there were a couple companies that were very, very persistent. So the recruiters would be like, "Oh, I'm going to check in with you in the next month," or they would check in with you very often to see if you were ready to leave or if things were going well. So that's what was happening. We had recruiters in our inbox very, very often, just checking up on us and trying to see whether or not we were ready to wait. So this recruiter contacted me from this company. Let's call the company Dinosaur. So the recruiter contacted me. They said they loved my profile. They wanted me to get me in a position, and they were hearing about a lot of the things I was doing in the company, and some of the people I actually worked with was at the company. So they said they heard a lot of good things about what I was doing around women in tech and other stuff, and they would love to get me in. So I thought, well, I mean, I'm okay, but I wasn't really sure where my career was going. So I said, let me go and interview. And that's one thing about me. I don't shy away from interviews if I see an opportunity. I don't do every interview. Most of the times it takes too much effort and I just can't be bothered. But if an opportunity seems good enough, or I think the company has a really high hiring bar and I may want that experience, I will take it. So that company, I said, okay, let me go ahead and I'll do the interview. So I did the interviews. I met with the lead, I met with the client, that was a US client, and I got the go ahead from the client. The recruiter contacted me back maybe a couple of days after, and they were like, oh, everyone liked you. We want to make you an offer, for the position. This is your verbal offer. This is the amount we can pay you. All right, it was good. Sounds awesome. I passed. There was this one thing. The amount they were offering me was less than I was making at the time. So it was less than I was making at the time, which, I mean, it would have been, I wouldn't say it would be impossible to match my salary, but I knew it was competitive at the time. So I kind of understood, but I was like, I'm comfortable, so why do I need to take that? I can negotiate, right? So I said to the recruiter, are you open to negotiating, because this is less than I'm making now? The recruiter said, sure, we can talk about some stuff. So the recruiter was actually the one who mentioned that there were other things that we could negotiate, like maybe equipment or vacation time or go to conferences and other stuff. So we started having a conversation. Our recruiter works with the company. This is a reminder. They will be good at their job. They will be pleasant enough and professional enough to do what needs to be done to get you in the door. But I wouldn't, even to this day, I wouldn't say they are more invested in you, the person, than their job. Yes, they're nice, but I wouldn't say that. So we spoke about things that we could negotiate. So I said, okay, I'll talk about it. So I will think about it. Sorry. So I started thinking about it, about what she said and stuff like that. And I went back to her and I emailed her, I believe. And I said, well, I mean, the amount they were offering me in terms of the salary, it wasn't that much less. So I thought, it's not so bad, I can take it. So how about equipment? So at that time, the laptop I had was really, really bad because they had broken into my house and stolen the laptop that I bought. soon after I had moved to Costa Rica, and I ended up getting another one, which was way cheaper, because I was like, if the owner of the laptop is going to come and get it, why am I going to buy such an expensive laptop again? So I got a really cheap one, so it was really hard to do anything on it. So I said, could we negotiate like a buyback program where over time I can get ownership in the laptop, so at the end of my tenure or whenever that happens and stuff, I could eventually own it. And I remember I spoke about vacation time and conferences and stuff like that, things that were mentioned to me before as things I could speak about. So the recruiter came back to me and mentioned, yeah, they would go and talk about it and see what could be done and stuff. They came back and told me that the equipment was not possible. Some companies do this where you can own the machines after a part of the amount of time, but this company actually didn't do it. So I was like, okay, fine. And I thought the other things were up for conversation. So I made a really, really big mistake at this time. I had a good relationship with my manager. So I told him I had an offer I was considering. I was not saying this because I wanted a counter offer. It was more because I had a team and I did not want to blindside anyone. So I was like, oh, I have an offer I'm considering and stuff like that. And he said, oh, I have to escalate it. And I'm like, I didn't want that to happen. I just kind of wanted you to know, just in case, so you could look at a replacement or someone like that. And he escalated it. But by this time I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said anything, right? Because I didn't want that to happen. But I was like, okay, there's an offer, and I would get to work remote, which was a good thing because I couldn't work remote from where I was. And there was just some things that I thought would actually be beneficial for me, even if the money didn't match. So I was looking forward to the recruiter coming back to me because they didn't let me know that there were any problems and stuff like that. So a couple weeks passed. A week passed, and then my manager was like, are you gonna accept that offer or anything like that? And I was like, I'm still waiting on word from the recruiter, and no word. So eventually, I don't remember if I said like a follow-up or two. I think I had to send like 2 follow-up, and then the recruiter got back to me and said, unfortunately, the salary that she offered was not in range. And that was weird because the salary that they offered, I know people at the company was making more than that. And she was the one who brought that salary up. So how did you bring up a salary that was not in range? Didn't make any sense to me. So I figured it was something around negotiating and stuff like that caused the problem. Maybe they thought I was problematic. Maybe they thought I was asking for too much. Maybe they thought I thought too highly of myself. Whatever it was, basically I no longer had an offer. So I went back to my manager and I told him basically I'm not leaving. I don't remember if I mentioned the reason why. I think I did. I think I did tell him that I didn't hear back from them or something like that. And so I ended up staying at the company. Luckily, they didn't kick me out. And I was able to still continue my job, and I think I left maybe a year later or a couple months later to another company. But yes, I tried to negotiate and it didn't work out for me. At that time, I think I already listened to Never Split the Difference, which is an awesome book, by the way. I had sessions on negotiating. I also did talks on negotiating myself. But using tips that I've learned and bringing other people in, and we just kind of doing scenarios with my group and stuff like that. But still I had that experience, because sometimes there are things that you can't predict and you just don't know. Looking back, are there things I would have done differently? I would say yes. I would ask, one, what's the range for the job? Like, what's the range? In the US, it's a little bit easier, and in some states even way easier, because the companies have to publish the range. But in smaller economies, there's no pressure on recruiters or companies to put the range out there. If they don't want to tell you, there's so many people looking for the job that they just move on to someone else who they could also offer less, or whatever they're offering, it would be an increase for that person, even though it would potentially not be an increase for you. Right? So I would have asked for the range and see if I could have gotten it. So at least I would know beforehand would the salary be above or in line with what I wanted? Number two, I think I could have asked what, of those list of things that the recruiter said, I could negotiate what were actually negotiable, or what have they actually made concessions about before, so that I could use that as ammunition to go in to say, okay, this thing is non-negotiable. And in my opinion, if it's not negotiable, why bring up some of these things, right? But that's the second thing I would have done, honestly. And number three, as I said, I had a really good relationship with my manager, but I would not tell him. I would have not mentioned that. I would have taken that L, like just taken it like that, with no one else having to know about it. But I didn't. And I had other friends that I told I was interviewing with the company, and I had to tell what happened. And I don't think I was embarrassed for that piece. I think I was annoyed. And yeah, I was definitely annoyed, because I don't think that's how you should treat people. And if it was an opportunity for feedback, well, some of these demands are not within in line in what we can do, then that would have been good feedback to get. I actually met the recruiter. I've never met her before that, but I met her once after that, and I was just like, hey, how are you? She probably wouldn't have remember anyway. But yeah, I mean, that's how negotiating went bad for me. I went from having an offer to not having an offer, and I see so many stories online from people who this has happened to, people who may not actually have been in a position where they were comfortable or they were making more, because in my case it was okay. I didn't lose anything except some hours of my time, because I was making a good salary. Where I was actually more convenient from a like logistics standpoint. I was really, really close to my house. I had friends there, but I just kind of wanted something new that was a little bit more challenging. So I didn't lose anything. But there are people who have sold their positions looking to move across states, people who have handed in their resignation, people who have made drastic changes, and who are looking forward to a better life, who then had an offer pulled from them. And for those people, I would say, that must have been horrible, and shame on the companies and the recruiters who did that. If there was something that they could have communicated before, like, oh, the position is is not yet approved or something, communicate something up front. Please don't waste people's time. And the minute you find out that something has changed, communicate that, just so maybe the extra day would have stopped someone from resigning or stopped someone from selling their house or something, right? At the end, I still want to say negotiate, people. You should negotiate. It would be good if we all had a bounds or box that we knew we could negotiate within. It's not that simple, but negotiating is not all about money. I have negotiated extra vacation days, and that was important to me, right? I have negotiated adding my kids to what do you call that thing? Insurance plan, right? So there are things you can negotiate that's not just give me a couple $1,000s more, but negotiate. Find out from your recruiter if you can negotiate. And when I say that, I'm like, you should be able to negotiate anyway, right? But someone trying to negotiate, there's no reason for you to put an offer. That is not good at all. Anyway, if you have any negotiating horror stories, I would love to hear about them. Don't want you to relive your pain or anything, so feel free to just watch this and think, oh, it happened to her too. Negotiating is an art, it's a skill, but also you just never know what the other person can and will do. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of things we can do to stop people from pulling the offer. Continue on your hunt for a new job or for a better job or whatever it is you're doing. Keep negotiating, and all the best.